Let's find a whiskey that is better than one of my favorite allocated bourbons that you can buy. Welcome to Whiskey Noobs, everybody. My name is Chris, and if you're watching the video version, I'm awkwardly leaning off to the side because I have a solo blind in front of me to do this tasting. But in today's episode, we're doing a blind tasting of Weller Full Proof, which is my favorite from the Weller lineup. So this is the blue label. If you've seen Weller before, Weller advertises as the original wheated bourbon. And this is the blue one. It's the full proof one. It's not cask strength. It's full proof, meaning they proof it back down to the proof that it was when it went into the barrel, which is 114 proof. And I love it. It's one of my favorites. I remember it having a nice burnt sugar flavor. It has a little bit of a leather and tobacco, but it's balanced out really nicely by a sweetness, by that burnt sugar, by maybe some brown sugar, and a hint of like a licorice flavor. Just all around, I love it. But it's really, really hard to find. I got very lucky. This is the only bottle that I've ever bought of it. I got very lucky. I hopped in line, and there was like 26 bottles, I think, and I was like 21st in line, and this was a while ago. I've really milked this bottle for a very long time, although it is getting down to about that halfway point where I should probably start drinking it faster, which makes me really sad. And because I'm really sad about that, let's find a good replacement for it, shall we? So today we've got 3 wheated bourbons that I think could be potential replacements for it. So we've got Larceny Barrel Proof. This is their batch number B523 because that's the Larceny Barrel Proof that I have. Hopefully all the batches taste at least close enough. And it is a barrel proof wheated bourbon. So barrel proof being a little different than full proof. I want to make that clear, but it's just what I have that's close in the proof level. So Weller is 114 proof. This Larceny is 124.4 proof. Then we've got Middle West Spirits Cask Strength Wheated Bourbon Whiskey. They're Michelin Reserve. Michelin Reserve or Michelin? I'm going to guess Michelin Reserve. And it is 122.2 proof. So you can see both of those are a little bit higher than the Weller. I'm hoping the proof doesn't give it away in this blind tasting. This was as close as I could get. And then I've got Green River's latest release. Their full proof wheated bourbon. I only have this little sample bottle of it, Green River. If you're watching this, I would love a full bottle to do more tastings like this. Shamelessly asking for a sample of this because I think it's fantastic. And it is 109.3 proof. So it is the lowest out of all these, but also the closest to the Weller in terms of proof point. So we got a little bit of a spread on proofs. Hopefully that doesn't mess us up, but I think it's going to at least get us in the ballpark. And usually, at least for me, I'm not very great at telling the proof of something in a blind tasting. I'm like, I don't know, it's between 100 and 110 or between 110 and 120, and sometimes I'm even wrong about that. So I think we're going to be okay, only being a little bit off, but I guess we're going to find out. So hopefully it doesn't give anything away. I do already have everything loaded up into the solo blind because it's really a pain to do that on camera. It just ends up being a bunch of time that I need to edit it out. And we're going to give them a good spin. I always load these. Little pro tip for you if you're using a blind tasting device, brought to you by Just Need LLC. If you're using this, I like to load them in kind of a random order. So I'll line them up 1, 2, 3, 4 in front of me, put them all together, and then I won't put them on 1, 2, 3, 4 because then I might remember. So I just put them on like 1, 3, 4, 2. Like I put them on in a weird order, and I also take them off in a weird order. And that is just for me to make sure. Otherwise, I know I'll get in my head about which is which, or I think maybe this was the Weller because I think I said it on there. And you can't know. You really can't. But I'll find a way to get in my head. And so I do that on purpose. Also, let me set this down. If you really want to make it so that there's absolutely no possible way, even if you are Albert Einstein, that you could remember what order you put them in there, you put them on the carousel in, you could spin it, take the cover off, scramble them again, spin it again, scramble them, put the cover back on, spin it again, and then you're really not going to know. This is good enough for me, though, because it's good enough for me to know I have no idea which is which, and that's why I do it this way. So we're going to go through First with a nosing, once again, I really hope one of these does better than Weller Full Proof. Weller Full Proof is relatively inexpensive if you can find it in Ohio. I want to say it's 50 or 60 bucks, something like that, and I think it's a phenomenal bourbon. And I'm hoping one of these at least gets close, if not does better. It's been a super long time since I've had the Weller Full Proof because I'm trying to hold on to it, and I think we're going to have a really nice, fair tasting for that reason. But I'm rambling at this point. I'm going to go through a nose first, give a gut reaction. Then I'm going to go through a quick palate, give a gut reaction. I guess I do normally rate these, don't I? I should probably do a full rating of each of them, so I'll use my phone for that because I have it in my pocket. I'll do a full rating for each of them, and then we'll reveal which is which is always terrifying. Let's do the nose. Okay, that was a more thorough nosing than I expected, but I was really having trouble getting notes in the beginning. It always helps when I jump to the next one and the next one and the next one and then come back. So like A, I'm putting A on my right, by the way. So A is on my right, then B, then C, then D. So that's on your left. A, then B, then C, then D, which should be the order you would expect them to be in, just for anybody who's watching the video version. But if you're listening, A is the first one that I want to smell, and it's hard to like nail down what it is. So then I'm like, oh, I'm really struggling, and then I go to the next one, and I'm like, oh, well, the next one is very clearly more this than that, and that always just helps me so much. So if you're having trouble tasting, that's actually a really, really helpful thing to do. Anyhow, starting with A, I have that it's light sweet, so it's not like the super dark, burnt, sugary, brown sugary, molassesy type sweet. It's more like normal sugar, like white sugar type sweet. A little bit of cinnamon, and then like a candy sweet, like a fruit candy, some kind of a fruity candy type flavor. Then B definitely moves from a white sugar to a brown sugar, and it becomes more perfumey, more floral, very much kind of smells like a perfume. Then C was the worst nose in my opinion. It was less sweet and it was more ethanol. So I didn't catch as much of the sweetness. I didn't even really catch too much of an oakiness. The oak that was there is like dry. Oh, you know what I just caught though? While I'm talking, I just caught a little bit of almost like a little touch of banana. I'm going to put it tiny bit of banana. Banana is very common for me to get from oakier stuff. Sometimes it presents itself not as like the brown sugar bitter type oak, but sometimes as like this little bit of banana. So I'm going to guess that that's what's going on there. And then D, I have back to brown sugar, which is kind of like B was, but then it's more similar to A in terms of oak and candy, but D has more oak, less candy than A had. So very similar to A in that regard. Like if I smelled them side by side, I'd be like, okay, these are pretty similar. Whereas B and C kind of have their own thing going on. C is the most different by far. B is at least in the same vein. It's just a little bit more floral, a little bit more perfumey. So that being said, I went through and rated the noses as I did it. A, I have the nose at an 8, which is phenomenal. I think it's just really nice, rich, easy to just sit back and smell, makes your mouth water. Same with B. It's different, but it really just you make your mouth water. It's sweet. It gets you excited to try a drink of it. So I put B as 8 as well. C, I dropped down to a 6 because it's a lot of ethanol for the amount of flavor that I was getting. And then D, I put it at 7.5 because you're back to having those nice, sweet, approachable flavors, but there is a little bit more of an alcohol flavor. You still notice some alcohol, not as much as C, but not as little as A and B. So that's why I put D at a 7.5 instead of at an 8. So far, we're pretty neck and neck except for C, and sometimes I get totally flabbergasted when I move to the palate because sometimes the palate on something that has a bad nose is just phenomenal. So I'm really going to try to keep an open mind here. I'm going to go through and do a gut reaction. I'm not going to rate all of them yet, so this first sip is just going to be tasting it and what's my knee-jerk reaction? If I had just bought this bottle, I took a sip of it, what would I think right away? Would I be glad that I bought it? That's kind of what I'm going for with this first one, so I'm going to put my phone down, and let's go through and do that. Okay, A right away has more alcohol than I would have expected and less fruity than I would have expected from the nose. It actually moves into a little bit drier, a little bit more oak territory, a little bit more tannic. Still really tasty, a good amount of body, but the flavor really shifted, so I wanted to make note of that. It's so funny the switch that A and B just had, because now B is definitely sweeter. I added licorice as one of the notes to it, like red licorice, not like black licorice, like Twizzlers. It definitely just has more of a candy vibe going on to it. So far, like subjective, just gut reactions, I'm liking B more. It's a little bit more my ballpark, but let's see. C has a surprising brown sugar note to it, a little sweeter on the palate than it was on the nose. I think that banana flavor really was oak. It's really reminding me of something oaky. It does not taste like this, but the banana and the oakiness and the way that it's a little bit dry remind me of Woodford Reserve Double Oaked. In that vein, or a Cooper's Craft Barrel Reserve, in that vein. There are distinct differences between this and that. I think this might be one of the higher proof ones, or it just drinks a little bit high proof. It's burning my tongue a little bit more. So yeah, that I always try not to make predictions, but I'm going to. That always pushes me towards like Larceny, I think, with the amount of oak that I'm getting. But I could definitely be wrong about that. So let's keep moving forward. Quit guessing stuff, Chris. I gotta get better about that. Okay, so then D, I put sweet Twizzler, then some bitter tannin. Really reminded me of B. Did I say B? I meant D. D reminded me of B. Hopefully you guys can hear the difference between those two notes. I'm trying to enunciate them as well as I can. So that was definitely there. And then I jump back to A and B and kind of walk through those again, because now that I have my palate warmed up a little bit more, and A is sweeter now. So I think it shocked my palate a little bit because it was the first one that I had a sip of. But now that I'm looping back through, I can see it as being sweet. So I'm actually going to get rid of my note that says palate is more dry. And I'm going to add in a little bit of candy. A, B, and D are really feeling similar. C is standing out from them, and I don't know how it's going to shake out in the ratings. I don't mean that it's worse necessarily. It's just different. So I'm going to try to keep that in mind as I rate them. And then I think A, B, and D they have very similar characters, more similar than I would have expected from the group that I picked, to be honest with you. So let's see. Did I say C? I meant to also mention in C that I got a little bit of brown sugar, a little bit of fresh cut hay, and a little bit of oak. I don't think I mentioned that on C, so I want to make sure I mention that. So yeah, now I'm going to go through and do a full rating, and we'll see what happens. Okay, here's what we've got so far. And I am going to run through them one more time, give my palate a little bit of a break while I explain what I was just tasting. Then I'm going to run through them one last time before I officially add up these scores. But on A, I got a nose of 8, like I said. Flavor density, which is what I used to put body here, but I think flavor density is a better description for what it is that I'm trying to find. It's the amount of flavor given the amount of alcohol. So how much volume of flavor are you getting versus the amount of alcohol? Do you need to like surge through the fog of alcohol burn to taste it? Or is it just kind of right there? So that's what I'm calling flavor density. I got that at a 7.5. It's really easy to taste, actually. Most of these scored pretty high for that, but it was pretty easy to taste. I as soon as it touches your tongue, you're like, okay, I got flavor. I'm not getting a lot of alcohol, but I'm getting a lot of flavor. Complexity, I have it at a 7.5. This is one that I felt like was changing as I was sitting here sipping on it. And maybe I'll that is the highest complexity rating. I was going to say maybe I'd even bump it up, but we'll see. I'm going to go through them again, like I said. Harshness, I have it a 7. Not very harsh. All of these had a very similar type of harshness, which is like the bitter tannin. You just licked oak and like a charred oak, and you go, ugh, like there's like that type of a harshness, which is different than alcohol burn. It's like a harsh flavor, like an undesirable flavor. These all had the same one, but they had it to different extents. So I might go through again, really focus on what extent each of these had them. The finish, I put it at 5, mainly because that harshness ramps up on the finish, and you start to notice a ton more of that kind of bitterness on your tongue. So finish was down low at a 5. B, I'm just not trying to do the mental math, but it's kind of happening. I think B scored the best. It has a nose of 8, once again. Flavor density of 8, very high, like a lot of flavor. As soon as you take a sip, you taste it. Complexity of 7, pretty complex. Not quite as complex as the first one, but definitely you taste different things. The body is huge. You taste a lot of flavor, but it doesn't change as much as it does for A. There's not as many different elements. So I should clarify complexity a little bit. Complexity is like how many different flavor notes are working together. You can have a bunch of flavor notes, but they don't work together at all. That's not really complex. That's just like a nightmare. Or you can just have one flavor note, and it's really strong and it's really good, but it's not complex at all. You can have that too. So complexity is like a harmony between different flavors that you're getting. Does it just kind of taste like one thing every time you take a sip of it, or are you noticing different things? That's kind of what I mean by complexity. So I have that at a 7 for B. I have harshness at a 7, basically the same exact reason as A. And then I had finish at a 7, though, because it doesn't get more bitter the way A did. B has a really nice finish where it really sticks around. You really get like an oaky, cinnamony type sweetness, so I really enjoyed that. C, I have the nose once again at a 6. Flavor density I have at a 7.5, so the same as A. Very similar. You taste it, and it's there, but there's still little alcohol, but nothing crazy. B was crazy. B was like, oh my gosh, so much flavor as soon as it hits your tongue. So that was 7.5 for flavor density. Complexity, I have it at a 6.5. C was one of the least complex. Yeah, it was the least complex. It is very much hitting that oaky, sweet, a little bit of herb, like a little bit of a fresh cut hay, a little bit of that type of a flavor, and not much more than that. I was hitting about the same types of flavors every time. Harshness, I have it at 6.5. C was definitely the most bitter, at least in this pass through. We're going to try again. And finish, I have it at a 5. Very similar to A, where as soon as you swallow the whiskey, you get like a bitterness that kind of ramps up. So I put that finish down at a 5 for the same reason as A. Then D, I've once again got the nose at a 7.5. Flavor density, I almost said flavor development. Flavor density, I have at a 6.5. It has the lowest flavor density, the most amount of alcohol for the amount of flavor that you're getting. You have to search for the flavor the most. Complexity, though, is a 7, so it's good, not amazing, middle of the road. Not amazing in this tasting, I mean. 7's actually a high complexity. All of these are scoring very well. I should mention that. But compared to the others, not amazing, kind of middle of the road. Harshness, I have it a 7, which is still pretty good. The same as A and B, basically. And finish, I have it a 6.5. So I didn't drop it down to that 5 that A and C got, because those were like noticeably bitter. D had like a little bit of a bitterness, but it wasn't mind-blowing. It wasn't like A and C were. And it still had a couple of the nice sweet cinnamon type notes linger around, and so I bumped that up to a 6.5, which is still not as high as B was. So now I'm going to go through one more time. I really want to suss out the difference between the harshnesses, and I really want to make sure that I'm on the same page when it comes to complexity. I think harshness and complexity are the two that might change the most in this third pass through, but we'll see. And then I'm going to add them all up, and then we're going to announce our winner, which always makes me horribly nervous. We'll see. Okay, only a couple of changes here. First is harshness. I added some spread for harshness. I kept A and B the same at a 7, but for C, I thought it was more harsh than D, but I thought they were both more harsh than A and B were. They had more of that bitterness, and so I bumped C down to a 6 and D down to a 6.5, so there was a little bit more spread there. And then same thing with complexity. I felt like we needed a little bit, not even more spread, but we need a little tweak here. So I had A at 7.5 and B at 7. I flipped those. I actually think it's the opposite way around. The more I tasted them, the more I was like, actually, B, I do think it has more going on. At first, I was like, well, it has a lot of flavor density, it has a lot of volume of flavor, but it doesn't have a lot of complexity. And then as I sat and tasted them back and forth a little bit more, I'm like, you know what? No, it has both. It has that flavor density and it has that body. So B is really a standout in this. Interested to see what it ends up being, if it ends up being the Weller or not. C, I think I kept the complexity the same at a 6.5. And D, I don't know what I had it at, but I have it at a 7 now because I went back and forth between A and D a couple times just looking at complexity, and I was like, these really have similar complexities. Like, they're actually kind of similar in flavor as well, but A just has more flavor. But very similar in that regard. So, overall, I think, especially if I account for my internal subjective opinion, the things that I like, B is a standout. I love how much body it has. I love how brown sugary sweet it is. The others are like a lighter fruity type sweet, especially A and D. B has like a nice oaky type sweet that I actually do really enjoy. It just has a little bit more of that bitterness. So B is a standout for me. It's an obvious winner. I have no idea what it's going to be. When I think red fruit, like A and D have, I think more Weller. So I feel like it wouldn't be the Weller, but just based on how highly it scored, I'm like, maybe it is the Weller. So we're going to see. I'm surprised that I don't have more guesses as to which is which, but I really don't. They ended up being, at the same time, more similar and more different than I expected, because it was like they have very different personalities, kind of like how D has less flavor density but a nice complexity, and then A tastes really similar to D but it has more flavor. It just ended up being they're really similar in that regard, but then also like C was pretty different. C, I hope I was able to judge fairly because it was such a different flavor. That makes it hard to judge apples and oranges. So hopefully I judged it fairly. We'll see. I think I did. I was as objective as I could be. As objective as I could be. There we go. We can say it. I promise I didn't drink all of these. I spit out a lot of them, and then I swallow them for the finish. That way I can get a good finish. But anyhow, all that is to say, I didn't add these up. Let me add them up. I'll cut out that part for you, and we'll see which one's our official winner. Okay. Now that I've done the math, I'm not going to lie to you. I think I was a little extra harsh on all these. I think all of these deserve to be bumped up by like 5 points because I'm comparing great whiskey to great whiskey, and I think I was getting like super critical of different things. So I probably should bump up like across the board. Every score should probably go up by like a half point, which would make the overall score go up by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, it would go up by 5 points. I think that's probably a fairer way to do it. I might actually do that if I add these to my rating sheet. Anyhow, A, I have it a 69. That was where I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Just sitting here drinking this is scoring higher than a 69. So I'm going to say probably actually a 74. But okay, I'm just going to stick to the scores that I had them at. I had A at a 69, B at a 75, standout. He was a standout from the crowd. C at a 62, that was another one where I was like, there's no way that deserves 62. And D at a 68. So in first, well, let's go in reverse order. In fourth place, we've got C, which I had at a 62, but I'm going to give it an honorary 67. That was Larceny Barrel Proof. Whoa. I did say that in the beginning, though, didn't I? I think I did. All right. So Larceny Barrel Proof is in fourth place. And then just barely D. D is at a 68. A is at a 69. So in third place with a 68, but an honorary 73, we've got Middle West Spirits. It is coming down to the two that I thought it was probably going to come down to. Here we go. Okay. In second place with a score of 69, but an honorary score of 74, we've got A, which is Green River. Son of a gun. I guess it really is that good. In first place with a 75, but an honorary 80, we've got Weller Full Proof. What a delicious pour. It really is that great. But let me say, man, I was really hoping that it was A or D, but that's all right. Let me just say, the Green River at 69, it was only 6 points behind. That's not horrible, and considering you can find it like anywhere. And then once again, Middle West Spirits for being only 1 point behind that, not bad, not hateful. Does make me sad. I was really, really, really hoping that B was Green River and A was Weller. but the blinds don't lie. That is just truly the way that it shook out. The Weller just definitely has, and that helped me nail down what it is that I like more about it. It has more body. It has more complexity. And it doesn't finish as harsh as the rest of these. It stays sweet after you swallow it. It kind of sticks around on your tongue with like a sweet, nice, welcoming bourbon type flavor. So that at least helped me nail down why I like it so much, but I really need to slow down on drinking it, I guess. So I guess Weller Full Proof really is that good, but we have some really good other options as well that are really delicious, and I'm going to bump all those scores up by 5 because I really do think they deserve to be bumped up a little bit. That's all that I've got for this episode of Whiskey Noobs, though, guys. So if you enjoyed this show, please go down in the description, check out the Whiskey Noobs crew. They get access to every single review. Every bottle that I am sent for a review, I open it on camera, rate it, go through the full rating scale, and I post it to the Patreon page. The Whiskey Noobs crew gets access to that. And then also, there's a bunch of other things as well, but also you get priority for barrel picks. I think I do have it listed on there now, but I have it kind of sneakily worded, so if you're confused about it, I'm just trying to make sure I'm abiding by the rules of Patreon, but you do get priority access in the order of the tiers. So please consider checking that out. Please like, subscribe, rate, review, whatever you can do on whatever app it is that you're listening to or watching this on. Thank you guys all so much for your support. I will leave you with learn to drink, drink to learn.